Welcome, everybody. My name is Hannes Rudolph. I am the community manager here at Roo Code, and I'm joined here today with Adam, Gosu Coder, a YouTuber, as well as Dan on our development team, and Bruno, I think our newest member to our development team. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay. So typically we do this Flappy Birds crap, and we're not doing that today. There's been a shout out, or the community's screaming, please stop. I can't keep watching Flappy Birds. So we won't do it anymore. The reason we have Bruno on our podcast today is because we're going to talk about the new UI changes that we've made. So I'm going to start by getting some design going, or some stuff going, so people can see it moving, and then we're going to ask Bruno some questions, and then we're going to shift, ask Adam things, just do our typical shoot the shit, get this going. So here we are. I have a live instance here. Let me just zoom in. Can you guys see that well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, all good.
I am going to reset this work tree with a custom command I have. This is running, or with a custom mode. This is running GPT-5 minimum. Okay, Matt, are you going to join us as well? Our lead developer is here to do damage control and make sure I don't say anything I shouldn't say. I'm still going to say it.
That is an
Okay.
impossible job. So
Okay, so what I've done here is I have reset this work tree. I just gave it a command R, and I'll give you guys a bit of a rundown as to what it did. I have a mode here called, okay, it's a global mode. Anyways, it has instructions to reset the work tree back to, in this case, main sync art Roo Code 2. And so my next task is I'm going to look for a issue on GitHub, and I'm going to work on fixing it. I'm going to go through my scoping and fixing and review workflow while we chat about whatever. Bruno, the design. Let's talk a little bit about the design here. I see we've got some fun stuff going on here on the side. Can you tell us a little bit about what we've got going on? Maybe we should introduce you. What's your background? What do you bring to the table? Why are you the guy screwing with our UI?
Yeah. Hi. I'm the guy screwing with the UI. I should put that on LinkedIn. I'm still working on what to put on LinkedIn. I think that's a good one. Moving other people's pixels.
Chief Button Officer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I joined Roo, I think like 3 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah, a month, something like that. I have a background. I've been making software for like 20 years. First as a designer, then writing code, then leading design teams, then leading product management in design teams, and now back to getting hands-on to stuff. I think I'm working with the team on a bunch of different projects, stuff that's already live, stuff that's in the works. And since I started using Roo, I was always like impressed with its power, but overwhelmed by its pixels a little bit. And I think there's like a level of intensity in the chat area there that I wanted to kind of figure out how to best channel. I think it's interesting that text became the interface for so many things in 2025. I don't know if like 10 years ago we would have guessed that text is the way that we're interacting with the most advanced technology ever. But that kind of requires you to kind of stop and think through how to display that well. So we've been talking about changing the UI. All I did was move some text styles around, and then alignment and typefaces and colors and things like that. And I think it's gotten to some interesting results.
Yeah. I'm going to switch over back to our view here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So, I guess I can create a new task. I'm going to switch to something called in, yes, I do have a mode called simple shit. Sorry, guys. That's live. Issue investigator remote. This is one that I've been working on. I'm going to throw it in high so we see lots of thinking, and I'm looking for a bug to give it here. Well, we're looking for a bug actually. I'm going to ask Adam. How's things going in the local LLM world?
I mean, pretty good, honestly. The Quinn 3 235B VL model that came out, I'm super hyped about that one. That one's something that can be quantized small enough to actually run on my framework desktop. Mixture of experts model, so it's going to run good. Super pumped about getting some benchmarks around that one.
Yeah.
Mistral's put out some neat stuff. A lot of people seem to like the Seed OSS model currently. I've had mixed results with that one. And then the Omni models by Quinn are also kind of interesting. So curious about how those play out long term.
Yeah. Interesting.
What tasks you use them for usually? Just code.
Yeah,
normal
I mean,
coding?
I'm always touting GPT-5. So tell me a little bit about what you're using. Why don't you use GPT-5? Why don't you use Opus? What's your
my
deal?
dream is that we can actually code fully locally. So my dream is in the future, I can have this computer that's sitting right here and not have to have any cloud provider run models. And so I'm kind of like doing as much research and trying to understand that space. What it's really good at today, because of the speed of my hardware, is not so much driving agentic tasks, but there's like different workflows that you can use. So imagine like diff views. So imagine I've built my own tool for this. So I can actually load in my code base. I can actually say, hey, I want you to update the design of this page. It'll go through and do it and create a diff for me that I can immediately apply to my code base. That works a lot better than trying to drive agentic tasks just due to the speed and nature of it. And I'm able to do stuff, basically for free, just the price of electricity on it, and get really good results, especially with like GLM 4.5 Air. That's a great one. The Quinn 235B that's out there now that I currently run, I get great results from that. So I don't know. I use it for mainly front end and like writing test cases. It's where I'm using a lot of my local models for today.
Yeah.
I'm
Interesting.
curious, what kind of hardware do you need to run those? Like, do you need something super, powerful for that?
So the new AMD like AI Max processor that came out that allows you to do, I would say, quasi unified memory. I have a 128 gigabyte system. I can allocate up to about 110 of that to video RAM. And I can get, 30 to 50 tokens per second, depending on the model, if it's a mixture of expert model, locally here, without actually like a dedicated GPU, because of the iGPU that's built onto the processor is fast enough at doing it. And I think that's going to be the future. Like, I think it's going to be smaller, more focused models that you can run locally. I do think we need to get it working in agentic workflow. The reason that I don't use it agentically, or I've given up on that, is purely because of prompt processing time. So you guys know but for those of you that are listening, there's several things. You give it a big prompt. So imagine the Roo Code prompt, you give it to it. That's like 20,000 tokens. And you might have seen some of my work on trying to minimize that down and get it smaller. And there is like minimal versions that I have out there that help
Your
with this a
time to
lot.
first token is based on that.
Correct. Yep. So you've got
Okay.
a big amount of prompt processing time that happens. And you could be getting 500 tokens per second, but that still ends up being pretty long amount of time, right? Like on this machine. And that just makes it unattainable when you're doing that. And then every time you send a new file up, you've got that prompt processing time. And then you've got the streaming time.
So you're saying
time.
the bottleneck is a human attention span. The ability to wait for it to get to the next thing so you can queue up the next thing. No, that's really a thing. I mean, it's sort of funny that like how our workflows work it's not based. Human attention span is the bottleneck. Speaking of attention span, let's flick back to this for a sec. Matt, I'm going to let you comment on this too. Here's the bug that I chose. When adding context, pressing tab or enter on hold or on a folder, auto completes the folder name and immediately closes the picker. This prevents users from drilling into a folder to select deeper files via keyboard, adding friction to building precise paths. Now, just so you guys know, I wrote this issue, but I didn't. I just rewrote an issue which somebody else made. I took something that was a little more. I used Roo to make it nicer. So, Matt, what do you think about this one? Should I work on this?
Yeah, sounds great. Looks like a bug.
Yeah, it's something. I'm not going to get this to the review stage. You're going to be like, no, not interested in that, man. We don't like picking folders.
I like picking
Okay.
folders.
You like picking folders. Okay. Here, let me switch my screen, change streams to, I don't know which stream it is. I think that's the one. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Okay. I am in investigator mode. Let's go up here and I'm going to hit enter. Now we're going to flip to Bruno. Oh, not on Codex. Not on Codex. Good Lord. That would be embarrassing. Let's go with GPT-5 high. I'm on priority processing here and medium verbosity and high reasoning. So I'm going to paste that in and hit enter. Let's see what Bruno has slaughtered. I mean, beautified. We're actually getting lots of very, very positive feedback from people on this. See, here's the
I
time
really
to
like
first
the new
token.
UI.
Okay.
It's very nice.
So we got thinking. Why is it all expanded? Bruno, what have we done? You want to tell us about this? I expanded it. I made a pull request to expand the reasoning, and you undid it. And I like what you've done.
Yeah, so like there's a lot, as I was saying earlier, there's a lot going on in that kind of chat UI, right? And I think a lot of our job is to try to figure out what we ought to draw the user's attention to the most. I think what we were hearing, I was experiencing, and I think we were hearing from folks in the community is it's a lot of thinking, and then you see the conclusion of the thinking anyway afterwards. So decided to collapse the thinking by default because you can see kind of the outcome. It's kind of how humans work, right? Usually you can't open up their brains and see what's going on, and you only get the result on the other side, and it tends to be enough to understand what's going on.
That explains a lot about why I have trouble communicating.
But I think there's a lot of scenarios, right, where you want to understand the details of the thought process. So this seemed like a worthwhile thing to let folks choose. Got to be diligent about what settings we add there, but I think this one seemed warranted.
Well, people have been asking this for a while. They've been asking for a UI section. The biggest reason that I've seen come up a number of times is people going, look, I want the font size in Roo to change, but not everywhere else. And if they do this, what I'm doing here, everything changes. And so I think that I'm not saying that we're doing that. I'm not saying we're not doing that. But this, do you have any other thoughts for what we're going to be putting in this section? Do you have some hints?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like not specific things that should go there. I'm trying to think more in terms of a framework of what makes sense to be customizable. And I think like the thing that is when you're the user and you want to change something to make it work better for you, usually you only see the upside of that, right? You say, it doesn't work like I want it. I want to change it to be like that. And if not everybody wants it to be that way, I want a setting to configure it as such. But every single setting has like two types of marginal cost. One is cognitive. So people who don't care about that or haven't gotten to the level of sophistication have to parse and understand what that setting does. Which can be a lot if it adds up. And the other is the carrying cost. Like everything that we make customizable is something that we can't authoritatively change directly, right? So let's say like in this tweaking around of the fonts in the chat UI that we just worked on, if type size was an important one, and we already had a setting that allowed people to customize the type size, and I wanted to make it a little bit bigger, and then it just exploded. It was huge for a bunch of people, and the whole experience was terrible. That's the kind of thing that we got to think through before we add each setting there. It doesn't mean that we won't add anything, but it needs to be things that we can confidently, make a decision for the vast majority of folks, and we want to leave it open.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I like the intentionality that you're putting into it. I feel that, no offense, Matt, but a lot of our, like day one, the first thing we did was make a setting. That's like the first thing we did. Matt, remember when, it's coming up on a year here when we put a setting for auto, I think it was auto approve, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, I think early on, I mean, you can see how these things happen. I think it was just so exciting to add more. I think to Climb's credit, they've always had like a pretty an opinion about what they wanted to be and what they don't want to be, and that's changed over time, but they've always been able to express that opinion. But I think for us coming in with a slightly different opinion, it
Like
was
people pleasers.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm a people pleaser. But I think there are a lot of people that want to something a little bit different. At the time, it was around auto approval, and it seemed like a really safe way to add it. To make it a checkbox where people could opt into it, and then you can learn a lot about whether they care about it or not. And it turned out there were a lot more things like that as well. Like our experimental grew. It's actually architected to add a bunch of different tools. We added a bunch of different tools. I think it was a great expanding, kind of time,
Yeah.
time of our life as Roo, where we learned a ton about what people are interested in, and I think along the way we innovated a lot on what one of these tools could actually be when you harness all the ideas from the community. But I think on the other hand, you can kind of you can go a little too far on having a checkbox for everything. Every PR gets a checkbox. And I think there's attacks along the way where, someone new comes in and it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't know how to use this tool. I don't know which of these settings is actually the best. So I think we started talking about this, but really having someone like Bruno, who's just very thoughtful about the UI and the UX, has really pushed, like, what do we think the default should be? And what are the ways to layer on choices there that are really meaningful to people, and not just because like one person had an idea that there's a tax on everybody else if they don't care about that. So I will confess to this not being a strength of mine, but I think it's
What do you mean?
important for
You
us
and
as
I
we.
argued about all sorts of things about not
Yeah,
putting them or
I
putting
mean
them
that
more.
we
And
have seen
usually
the
we end
Hannes
up
and
just doing
Matt show
nothing.
for a while. Yeah. um, but yeah, so it's been interesting. I think just in general, like combining like the open source and all the ideas from the community and finding the right way to make a coherent product out of that. Hopefully, I'm not going too far and saying like it's been a challenge for a lot of open source projects to find the right balance there of how do you have some opinion while combining the community ideas. And like, I mean, luckily, I don't know, Bruno didn't give a full, background on himself. He has experience in open source software before and finding the balance and coming up with the product and layering in the edge cases and the happy path. And I think that's a really important battle for us to fight. And I've been really excited about the progress that we've made, but hopefully a lot more to come.
Okay, so what we've done here is, I don't know if I want to read all this. I have ChatGPT High on medium verbosity. So it's basically going, look, here is an analysis and a hypothesis. Yada, yada, yada. For what I would typically do at this stage is, this is not a huge issue. So I'm not reading all this and verifying whether it's correct. I'm going to YOLO it and go work on something else, is typically what I would do. So I would go, yes, please comment on this issue. Now, what is going to happen is it's actually going to trigger remote agent. This is a little something some of you might have seen. It's something we've been working on to automatically work on it. So just give it a sec. I'm going to switch screens. Where did that other screen go? I really wish I could just add them both. I know there was a way. Come on. Okay, well, it's thinking and thinking. I mean, that's on me. I probably should have just, I would like it. Matt, here's a problem I run into in these workflows. Everything's done. All it needs to do is post what the info it already has. When I manually switch this to GPT-5 minimum thinking, not low, minimum, it just boom, gets it done, nails it. I would love it if there was a way to switch modes within my workflow within, via a slash command, maybe. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, just switching
Because
modes,
submitting is
potentially
way better
switching
with
models.
GPT-5 minimum. Way better. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Switching modes, switching models. And one interesting thing in the last week has been Dan experimenting with how, and you too, maybe Hannes, on how different models respond to different prompts and how the GPT-5 interpretation of a certain workflow might be much different than the Opus interpretation, or God forbid, the Codex interpretation of it. And yeah, it has made me feel like we probably want more recommendations or more ways to kind of align the prompts with the models that they work best with. I don't know if there's any getting around that.
Yeah, I guess it's something to keep thinking about. To you community members who are listening, feel free to submit enhancement ideas on our GitHub repository. We love to accept these, and I'm sorry we say no to lots of them. That's how we find the good ones, or the ones that work with our sort of roadmap, which is not as much of a roadmap as Matt would like, because whatever we're planning today is going to be screwed up by a model release anyways. That's sort of how it goes. Okay,
It's
so
only 4.5. I thought someone said it come out. They come out on Tuesdays. Yesterday was Tuesday, right? When's it coming?
okay, so this workflow automatically put a comment here. It said, "Hey, remote agent," and that's going to trigger. It said, "Here's a summary of the cause." So this is going to trigger remote agent to start working on it. Now, I'm going to also start working on it myself. Um, so I'm going to switch again, change stream. Oi. Okay. And then I'm going to take this. We are 80K context, and I'm going to simply switch to what mode? Let's go to, should I go code mode or, and just let code mode have at her? It's not a huge issue. And I'm not that confident in issue fixer. It was written for GPT-4. As you've noticed, I've reworked my modes that I've been playing with, and then just in time for Codex to come out and turn it upside down again. So I'm just going to go straight to code mode as anybody would, and I'm going to say, implement this. Don't push a PR till I have tested it. Is anybody monitoring the chat? I think lots of people are talking in there. Um, and I have this on Medium, by the way. Medium is my go-to for tasks of this size. If it's a real difficult one, or if I've tried it and not like the slop it's produced, then I'll go to high. Dan, is that somewhat your workflow too? You'll do medium before high?
I I think medium is the right balance between reasoning and extreme slowness, because GPT-5 high reasoning is great. Might overthink sometimes, but it also takes so long to do anything. I'm usually running medium. If the problem is complicated enough, I definitely switch to high. Or if I need a really in-depth review of the code. But usually medium seems to be at least better than what current Opus is. So yeah, definitely just blasting medium all the time. Occasionally, yes, I do switch to high reasoning,
Yeah.
but not too often. It just takes so long to
Well,
sometimes you're doing something and you need it done quickly, and high reasoning just takes so long
well,
to
you
do
see
anything.
here how I'm in main sync RC2. I have 10 of these. And I've got 128 gigs of RAM, and I'm often sitting around using 100 of them, 100 of it. And that's just keeping these open because I don't always get to them right off the bat. Um, working on multiple things, and then Matt does 2 releases, 3 releases in a day, and I'm trying to work on that. Okay, Bruno, to you. Let's talk. We see some cool things here. Checkpoint.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, I really, really, really like this. One thing
Yeah.
that's thrown me a little off is I go often what I use this for is I rarely use it to roll back, but I usually use it because it's doing its thing, and then I go, okay, I want to see what it did, and I want to review exactly what it's done, right? And so I click that button, and I just click here. So I mean, it would be sort of cool. I don't know, just throwing it out there, not saying you should, if this just pulled up the diff. But also, I was thinking, you know how in Cursor or Windsurf they have a counter here. They show like, oh, here's how many files are changed, and here's how many lines removed and added. That often, to me, when using those pieces of software, was a barometer to, or if that's the right, it was a gauge as to how big that change was.
Yeah.
And right now, I look at it and see, okay, one, it's actually not that useful of a number. And my first instinct was to actually click here. And then I was like, well, I don't want to see that. That's like debugging. Not useful for me. And then I clicked to zip it back up. So that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Just a thought. What are your thoughts on how that works?
But on clicking and it opening the diff, I think it's interesting. I usually use a checkpoint to undo something. I usually the restoring to a previous checkpoint is much more prevalent of a scenario for me. And honestly, I think that's always the question. Like we try to go for a Pareto rule, right? Make it work by default. Like what 80% of people would use it for.
Yeah.
But 80% of people, not necessarily the 80% most articulate or loudest people. And I think
Yes.
it's hard to extract that signal sometimes.
That's
We need
your
the
art.
feedback, right? We want to hear how people are using things, but
Yeah.
So,
I'm
and I
with you.
think that applies not just to how things should behave when you interact with them, but what sticks out, above the surface, right? Because if you put everything that could be relevant to someone always in
Yeah.
the UI, then you end up with something that will mostly hurt people's eyes, and
Oh,
we
you
don't
mean,
want that, right? We don't
I think
want
that's what you're
eye
trying to
damage.
undo, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a lot that we're doing with hover states. Like this is a desktop, extension. So cursor, not a mouse, pointing device is present most of the time. Not for users using assisted devices and things like that. But you can tap your way through stuff. So anything that is not used like the vast majority of the time should probably be tucked away a little bit. And that's how we're thinking about it. So what you're saying makes
Okay.
sense. We gotta kind of
How
gauge
about
the
this?
prevalence. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I want to see this usually, and I guess sometimes I want to see the output. But I mean, really, I use the thinking blocks more than I use these, and I've minimized the thinking here to show, that I don't need to read them right now. But what about these? Is there something that we're thinking about doing with these? Or there's some other ideas you have for that 80%? Because I notice when I'm using Codex, like it's just one line, like it's just a bunch of these. It says like a thinking summary, and then like I did this, then I did this, then I did this. Like it would just say Roo wants search a directory, or Roo searched a directory, and then there'd be another line that says, whatever, fixing test import paths.
Yeah, I think right now our knob is set to a position where it gives a decent amount of information about what's going on to users.
Yeah.
It may not be max, and I'm trying to tone it down a little bit, but I don't know if you want to go all the way down to like a consumer product where you barely understand what's going on.
No, that
So
makes sense.
I think it's a continuous dance to kind of get there. In terms of running commands, like gotta stop and think more about that. I think another kind of thing that I keep in mind in all of these is what would be regrettable, right? So understanding what a command is doing, it's probably much more impactful than changing a file that is versioned. And worst case, you're going to lose some work. You're going to check it out again from head and or hash and then keep going, versus deleting some extraneous files on your computer that you shouldn't or whatever it is. So I think that's the other angle to take into consideration in this stuff too. But
I love how much you're thinking about this. I love it.
Well, yeah, it only matters if it's intentional, so that's what we're going for.
Okay, somebody asked in the chat something about accessibility. Are we going to be adding more, not hiding UI from screen readers when the screen, yeah. Are we going to be adding more?
It's continuously accessible, right? I had a
Mhm.
good opportunity to work on some of the stuff in the past, especially at Google. And I think it's like how you write the markup and like what kind of extra context you provide for people using screen readers to make it usable there. I think like we're doing a decent job, honestly, like way above average than you'd see like for like a small team or like even an open source project, because we are including a lot of ARIA labels and thinking through the structure of the markup and things like that quite a bit. When Roo reviews things, it tells us a lot of good insights about what we could do to make it more accessible. But there's trade-offs, and like we have to make decisions as we go, but striving to make it as accessible as possible throughout. But it's not a single thing. It's just like every single PR, we have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Absolutely. Okay. So we are working through our task. We gave it the issue. It is, it's running tests now to see if this worked. And yeah, my next step in the workflow would actually be to get this booted up, get it working, and see if it does what I expected it to do. The goal of this, the goal of this demo is not to necessarily show whether it worked or not. It's to show the workflow that we'd follow on a minor bug like this. So I'm going to say, you know what, let's make a PR. Go ahead and make a PR for this. Let's just do it. See what happens. In the meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about indexing. I've got a ping here. One of our team members said, find some time to talk about indexing models, local probably, as a question to Adam. Mention Quen embedding topping the recent charts. Adam, that's for you. So this is behind the scenes, here's my script. That's actually the entire script I have right there. So let's hear it, Adam. Quen
I
embedding.
actually don't know. I haven't done a lot of testing on like Quinn embedding. So it would be interesting to actually do a deep dive into understanding different performance based on different embeddings that are actually used. I don't know. Does anyone
Yeah.
here, has anyone tested that at all? I'm curious. Even in
I
chat,
actually,
I'd be curious if any of you guys know.
yeah. Oh wow.
The only thing I
Go
can
ahead.
say is I have tested different embeddings locally, and this is when I was doing my own exploratory like RAG lookup type thing. I will
Yeah.
say there is differences in embeddings. There's also like different configurations that change the way it works. I feel like you probably could spend weeks like deep diving this to understand the nuance in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the main difference I've seen on embedding models is how it almost feels like LLMs when you're asking some question and you can tell how much knowledge they have.
100%. Yep.
For embedding models is like how likely it is to relate one word, for example, your search query, with something that you're looking for. So, for example, there's some models that are just returning when you do a search, for example, they just return exact matches or very closely related matches. For example, if I'm looking for blue, they're gonna return the word, files with the word blue and color and stuff like that. And some other models have a better understanding of what you're looking for. Like if you're looking for the word color, they're not gonna just bring, a list of colors, but they're gonna, if you're working on a website, they're gonna give you the location of where the CSS is, where the styling is, and it seems like some models are better at that type of relationships between what you're looking for and the results that you get. That's what I've seen so far. Some models
Can I
just
sorry.
Go ahead, add.
just
Go for it.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna just ask you a question, Dan. Is that more an embedding, or is that more a vector sort of like search mechanism?
Just in
And
case anybody wonders, Dan joined the team because he made the indexing module for Roo, and he became part of
He's
the
now
team.
the expert on this, so I'm asking you that.
Yes.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not sure where it comes. I'm not sure what the reason is for that. I just know that some models, when I use the code base indexing feature, I sometimes read the results, and some models just return like exact matches. Like I see there just exact matches, and that's it. When I switch a model and index it all over again, and I also search, I see exact matches, but also stuff that is related to the query. So for example, with the Gemini models, embedding model is more of a I saw that for the first time. I was like, oh, look, this model is returning results about something that is related to the query. The query didn't quite get it. It was searching for something else, but it managed to find what I was looking for. I'm not sure if that comes to the vectors that it generates. I do know that our code base indexing doesn't have any like re-ranking.
Well, here, I did a bit of a search here. I forced it into this. I threw it into GPT-5 minimum, and I asked it about boomerang mode. It didn't do a code base search. If it was on Medium, it would have found the tools. In this case, it just, I don't know, came up with something from its head. So I had to sort of wrangle it in. But that's what happens when you use minimum. It does only what you tell it to do. Anyways, it searched and it came up with results here. Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you were talking about?
Yeah. So if you see the results, you see a score to the right. What I saw I was using like OpenAI models for a long time. Then I switched to Gemini. What I saw, the first thing that popped up for me was the scores. Like usually with OpenAI models, the confidence score or the score overall was lower. Usually found the stuff that I was looking for, but it was usually like low quality results. And when I switched to Gemini, the first thing I saw was, whoa, this result is 0.8. It's from 0 to 1. It was 0.8 score. And I was like, whoa, it seems to be more confident about the results. Then I looked at them, and it was bringing up stuff that it was relevant to the query, but it wasn't an exact match. It was like understanding what the query was about and finding stuff that was related to the query. So I'm not sure what it comes down to. If it's the vectors, if it's how we store the vectors, or but definitely you can tell that there's a change when you switch models. Some models just, I don't know, generate better results. I'm not sure how to explain it, but that's what I've seen.
It's not your area is building it, not
yeah.
Not growing the
basically
trees.
using the tools that are already available. Quadrant is already available. The embedding models are already available. I don't know exactly how it works, but I do know that some models do produce better results, and that's what I've seen.
I love how this attempt completion, the task completed, is no longer bright green. The whole thing. Oh, thank you, Bruno.
That is a massive change.
Well, here I have a PR it made, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to start a new task. And how this would go is typically I'm going to close these windows here, and I would be in work tree manager, and then I'm going to reset this again, and then I'm going to do a PR review as Dan would typically do it. Should I do it in high or medium, Dan?
Go for medium.
Okay. So
it's faster and we don't wait here for 10 minutes.
okay, code mode, medium, and I'm going to simply type, there's a / command that we have in our repository, thoroughly review, pull requests on GitHub, and it is something that we are going to, I know I show these things often on the podcast, and they're not mainstream because they're often tailored to our individual needs, and I want to show people that they can do this. And it's hard to give you a one size fits all key, but we are working at making this bit of a one size fits all review. That being said, it will probably come heavily recommended that you use a specific model or two, or expect unpredictable behavior. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to paste in this, or should I just put the numbers in, Dan? Either or.
Yeah, you
Muted.
can just put the numbers and that's gonna work.
Okay, so you guys can watch this go, and API request thinking. I really think there should be a kangaroo hopping up and down here. Okay, no, there shouldn't be. I just want to see a kangaroo somewhere, Bruno. Can we have a kangaroo, please? Maybe a kangaroo with the API request thing.
I think the main
What a
problem
kangaroo.
with that was wasn't available on the icon pack we used.
I have an Amazon page open
It's like
here for
reading
you.
the
Hannes,
release
don't worry.
notes. Right?
Yeah, I'll get you a kangaroo.
You'll give me a kangaroo. I appreciate that.
They ship from Australia.
It's fine. I can have. I mean, yeah. Okay. My kids would love it. Just like a little one. They get big though, don't they? Oh no. Then they're
called
trouble.
Joey's, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're really strong, right? I think Bruno, you gave me feedback. Is it feedback that the kangaroo I put in the release notes is too strong, or is it just?
No, I just asked this if like Roo being swole there is part of the appeal. I think they are very strong animals. Yeah.
We very much wanted to go away from a non-robotic kangaroo. I know that often when I'm like, hey, Roo, make me this image of Roo Code, it comes up with this like laser beam robotic cyborg kangaroo. And I'm like, no, just like we appreciate that a kangaroo is a kangaroo, not a robot. We appreciate humans are humans, and we want Roo Code to be something that you don't have to be a robot to use,
Yeah, and I think like biomechanically, considering how much Roo types, she's going to have very strong arms. There's no question about that.
Yeah. So we also thought about that. No, I'm talking about this like it was thought more than it is, but no, it's just been thrown around that we're not a robot. So that's Klein, where we came from. They've got the robot mascot. We don't want to copy them.
Well,
why would we exist? We do something different.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I'm trying to do with the UI is also like make it more human, more relatable. Like it is a robot doing work behind the scenes, but I'm trying to make it a little bit more, with the personality and like a take on things.
Yeah, I mean, the remote was talking about writing love letters in one of the PRs I read yesterday. They don't feel that robotic to me anymore. Maybe just awkward humans like the rest of us. It's comforting.
So right now what this is doing is Dan, you want to explain this? This is your mode or your / command.
Yeah, it will basically what it will do is just get all the information it can from the PR, comments, the description, if there's an issue linked, it will get the issue. Basically gathering as much information as it needs about the PR, and then it's going to review the actual code.
I don't even have your most recent one, by the way.
Yeah, that's I think that's an old one.
Why? I thought it's not in the code base.
It's not on the Roo Code repo. No, it's on the cloud.
So I'm going to ruin this.
Basically, it's available. Basically, it's available on the Cloud, yeah.
Okay. Here, do you want to
but-
shoot it to me so I could restart this one and then you can keep chatting?
Yep.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Adam,
Anyone want to take anyone want to take a shot at Simon's question here about custom modes versus commands? Anyone feeling like they got a good answer? I know it's something we talk about internally.
I don't want to come off as bitter, so I should be careful.
I know that Hannes prefers the modes.
I get confused by them / command.
I feel like they have different uses. Like modes, I guess they can be more general and flexible, and / commands can work pretty well when you have a fixed workflow to repeat over and over, and you can just decide. Also, the other thing that I liked about / commands, you can just start a task, on code mode if you want like a generic task, ask some questions, and then when you're ready to go, you can run the / command.
By code mode, are you saying like act mode or plan mode? Sorry. Code mode, act mode. Sorry. I'm poking because
I mean, the mental model that I've kind of built on it is I always try to think of like the mode as like seeding the system prompt. So if you think about the system prompt being the most important thing to seed the conversation, so anytime that you're working on something where like you're changing the overall behavior of the entire conversation, that's when I go into a mode. So for example, my favorite mode that I've built is called my pair programmer mode. It makes the AI be very conversational. It makes it give you ideas and options on it. That changes the entire behavior. I look at a custom / command as like, I may want to run that in different behaviors.
It's
so
an activity. It's a workflow.
Yeah, perfect. Yep. So that's the model I built on my head anyway. I was just gonna say that's the model. So if you're changing the behavior of the entire chat, I would lean towards a mode. If you're trying to do something like specific and it doesn't matter about the initial behavior, like just use the custom / command.
Here, I'm going to shoot back to, I interrupted you and I asked for an update. Dan, so what's this doing? This is, first we got the repo info.
Can you scroll up a bit? Well, it's just fetching the information, getting the PR description, title, issue if it's there's an issue linked there. Sometimes there's if there's it's a good way to determine if the PR is actually trying to fix the issue. Maybe the issue is about something, and the model goes and reads the issue and goes like, this PR is not even trying to fix that, it's unrelated, or it's not fixing it correctly because the issue says that it needs to behave this way. So I haven't seen that with Opus, but I have seen that specific comment with GPT-5 Medium. I saw it yesterday. It was saying something along the lines of, this change is not, the issue is mentioning, it was talking about some cost related point, and it said the issue needs, it's talking about cost. We should probably take that into account. So
here,
that just proves how.
Go ahead. So no, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
That just shows that this model is just more aware of the information that it has in the context. Some models are aware of the most recent 2-3 messages, it seems. This model, I make it gather as much information about the PR as possible. And then when it's about to leave the review, it considers everything that it has in the context window when leaving the review. So if it has a point about cost, it will leave a comment. This PR doesn't consider cost, for example. So it's a pretty good model for reviews, to be honest.
Well, I'm gonna tell people a little bit about what we're doing about reviews shortly. What some upcoming product we have, but first I want to do two things. One is just point out right here we are working through this issue. Working through this workflow. It's fetching. You see here it's fetching. It's in here. So I could follow this along and see exactly what it's doing here, and there's instructions for what to do and when. So without talking too much more about that, I wanted to get into this conversation, this debate that I was having with that Dan, Adam, and I were having before the show, which was largely about how do you choose a model? It's a big question people have. We had a fellow in here, Simon, who was going, okay, well, I'm working for a company, and we're developing this, yada yada yada, and I have access to this model, but how do I choose a model? For what task? So I had an opinion about it. Adam, do you want to start?
Mute. Sorry, I got to unmute there. Yeah. So the way the conversation kind of started off was, I think I asked Simon, what was the drive to try to figure out like this perfect model, and we talked about it. But really, the big problem is there are so many models to choose from now. It's literally impossible to keep up with it. Then you layer on top of it the variance. You've got quantization variance, you've got provider variance, you've got whatever, right? Configuration, temperature, all that stuff. So the challenge really is we just get overwhelmed with all this stuff. So what? And I can't even test them all. So like that's just a problem I think we're all going to have. But if we bring it back to like, is there a perfect model for every scenario? I don't think there is. I think there are models that have different personalities. I like to think about them like engineers on my team. I like to think about like,
Okay.
hey, this model is my planner. He's my architect. And so I mentally kind of like slot them into kind of buckets. And whether this is right or wrong, time will tell. So like, for example, I love GLM 4.5 for design. Love it. So when anytime I'm doing some design, I'll typically use that. I may bounce across other models. So what I would say is like, you really do want to kind of position it that way. Like Dan,
Yeah.
for example, on the team might be an expert at doing one particular thing, and that should be kind of how you think about like your model. Like this is the thing that's really good at digging in and doing PR reviews and stuff like that.
Or
And then
code-based
I would
indexing, but not like product design. Yeah.
right, yep. So the example I gave Hannes was like machine learning models. Like there are some AI models that are just really good at helping you kind of figure out what features should be built, building the actual ML model around it. And you can just run a very simple linear regression kind of building of a model across different ones. You'll get very different results for how it picks out feature importance, how it does back testing, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So and then UI, like if you're doing front end web stuff, there is a subjective nature to it, to like what looks good, what doesn't, does it follow things. So there's just so many dynamics to it. My recommendation would be, don't get lost in trying to understand all models. Kind of bucket them into categories, the ones you do know of like what they're good at, and then use those in those ways. But then as new models come out, don't be afraid to try them out. Like try them out for certain tasks and see how they work. And then if somebody on your team like tells you, hey, this model's doing good, I think we just have to communicate as a community, because there literally is too many models for us to test. Anyway,
That's
sorry.
that's why I often no, that's perfect. That's why I often take the position of just getting stuck with one model. I used Opus 4 and then 4.1 for quite some time, and I would adjust my prompting. And then I would use secondary models sometimes for translating, because Opus is sort of expensive and slow for that. But when I wanted to solve code problems, and then we were discussing, and I realized that my workflow is significantly different. I'm not looking for a model that's good at design, because I'm looking for a model that's good at following the instructions that often follow the lines of do X and Y, and follow the existing patterns of the code around it. So let's add a provider, and uh, follow, make it look like all the other providers. So it doesn't need to decide anything about design. If it decides anything about design, I'm going to be like, well, this isn't any good. I don't want it to look different. And so I was at a place when I started where I was designing something from scratch, and my workflow was like trying to figure out this memory bank. So I had this vision of a software that could do this, this, and this. And then I got there, and then I wanted to add more features. So I was, looking at it much different than it is now. And I guess I'm less sensitive to whether a model is good at design, beautiful looking interfaces, and I'm mostly just looking for one that understands an existing code base. And so that's really all I understand is what model is good at understanding an existing code base. That's all I'm looking for. So my opinion, turns out, is very ignorant. And Dan, over to you. From what I understand, you don't share my opinion about one size fits all.
I need to mute. The my thought behind it is if you're paying for models to use in an enterprise setting and you have a workflow that works for you, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, constantly improve it, but
Mhm.
if you have something that works and it suddenly breaks for no reason, then it's undesirable. I wouldn't say that you need to work with that workflow forever and never improve it and
So you're talking about
stay
the
with that.
variable where they work today and tomorrow, like use it for 3 weeks straight,
Yeah.
it works, and then suddenly it's shit in the bed.
Yeah. It's not about not getting up to speed with new models. It's about you're working on something and it breaks, then you have to stop working on the thing that you're working, maybe a new workflow, a new prompt, a new agentic flow, to go back and try and understand why it's failing again and try and understand what changed and how to make it work again. So I feel like, yeah, I agree with the notion that we should improve the workflows with every model that comes out. For example, we were using Opus. Now we're switching to GPT-5. It's just better at reviewing code from what I found, and it just seems better at everything. Sometimes it gets a little bit confused with all the reasoning it does, but it seems to be a pretty decent model. So
I was saying beforehand that it seems that our workflows often leave they have this Opus read between the lines uh, stuff in
yeah,
there, where Opus would choose 90% of the time the right direction, and 10% of the time it would fuck up, and we would be like, oh well, whatever. Awesome, 90% of the time. And then we switched to GPT-5 and we're like, well, this isn't that good. It's like this way, it's 50-50, or like 40-60, or 60-40. Not nearly as good. And then when we dig into it deeper, we discover that the issue was that we had ambiguous wording that was we were asking the model to read between the lines without realizing it in a place where we really didn't need to. Like, there are some things where you need to say, look for existing issues related to this, and it might just do that. If it doesn't, then you need to give it a few strategies. So the read between the lines, we found that when you suddenly you cleared that language up, often removing some of the extra language, that suddenly that model would do like 99% of the time it would go the direction, or 95% better than Opus ever did. So now it's not guessing. And that seems to be a positive and a negative, because it was really nice to have a model that could take ambiguous prompts that you were vibe coding. And now you have to read through them and be very intentional. But that intentionality unlocks a superpower, which to me, it, closes that gap, because that 90% isn't good enough. We want a workflow that works the vast majority of the time. So I'm
yeah.
going to jump.
It,
Go ahead.
like it. Imagine if you you perfect your prompt with GPT-5 and it's like 99% there, and then tomorrow it changes and it breaks completely and you have to remake it again. you know it's we were talking about versioning, that the models should have a version. If they plan to make an improvement, should be a new version. Probably
It felt
probably
like
a pain to
that's what
do.
Anthropic was doing, and then 4.1 went like, and 4.0, they both started going
Yeah,
south.
so it's just more about that. It's not about, you know, it's nice to not have to specify in your prompt what to do in every step. It's more about something is working today and it breaks tomorrow, that just, it's a waste of time sometimes, because you have something that works 99% of the time, and now you have to go back and change it just to get back to that 99% again. It's not even
Yeah.
like, oh, it's from 90%, but I change it and now it's 100. Like from Opus to GPT-5, sometimes it's just going back to how it was before, and
Yeah.
that was what we were talking about.
And I'd say that kind of brings us full circle with the idea of the best model,
Mm.
because what is the best model today? Minor changes could be happening behind the scenes that we have no visibility into, and before
Okay.
long we're like, oh, this thing feels like it's worse, but we have no proof of it other than this thing over here is working better. Just like it's a really big black box area that's so tough right now.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the way
here,
to get around that,
go ahead.
the way that we kind of try and get around that is setting up evals, right?
Mhm.
So evals are around every process that you do to help it to figure out if it's working or not. But
Yeah.
time's up.
Yep.
No, well, time's up, and we finished just in time. The review, I had it on screen here. It did not post it onto the actual issue, I don't think. Let's just take a quick look at our. Oh, I guess I need to go into our actual PR and take a quick look at the review. So, boom, boom. So that review mode actually put specific comments right in there, suggestions for change. And this is a workflow. Are these good results? These are probably pretty decent results. Are they the best? That's what we're working on perfecting. So I'm glad we could show this to you today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Bruno, Adam, Dan, and Matt. I look forward to having any of you on again. And thank you to everybody watching. Have a
Have a great
great
day, everybody.
week.
See ya.
Bye bye.